Hello, everybody. We're back at it again. Today's segment, I'd like to talk about retirement. Now, retirement for most people, when they think about retirement benefits, they think IRA, 401k, things like that. But I'd like to offer maybe something a little bit different perspective as far as saving for retirement. Now, I know this sounds a little strange, so just kind of hear me out. But so the two things that I really consider to be most beneficial are A, staying married, and B, buying a house. Now let's just kind of go through the first one, staying married. Now for most people, and I get it, after a period of time, marriage is kind of boring and it can be kind of dull. But you obviously got to, change things around. You got to spice things up, things like that. But, one of the things I'd like to talk about are, divorced versus married people. And in doing that, married people tend to have 7 times as much retirement accounts than non-married people. So, and I know for most people out there, you're probably young, or you're probably in the mid period of your life, and you're just kind of you're feeling alive. But we all get old, and we all see our parents, and we say, "Man, that's never going to happen." But even your parents said the same thing, and their grandparents and so on and so forth said the same thing about getting old. But we all get there, right? So you want to save for that day when you're not able to work. So just kind of remember that. Obviously, um, sometimes our spouses are a little bit troublesome and a little bit overwhelming, but you got to stick with it, just if nothing else for that purpose. Um, I can tell you that married couples tend to save more for retirement just because obviously you have someone getting onto you and saying, "Hey, save money," as opposed to go out and blowing it in on booze or whatever. And then also just having a dual earner household, that's something to consider as well. Obviously, in when you're married, you live together, and you split the cost of the house. You split the cost of going out to eat, of just simple things in your life that short term it doesn't make a lot of sense, but over long term you're going to save a lot of money because you're paying half the cost. Um, and that money obviously goes into savings and retirements and so on and so forth. Also, as well, just as far as Social Security benefits, married individuals tend to have access to survivor benefits. So even when your spouse passes away, you still have that money, and it typically goes up to 50% of the partner's benefits. So that money's there, and when one person's down, the other person's up, and so on and so forth. You kind of bring both the parties up, so to speak. Um, and even pensions and other assets, traditional pensions often require payments to a surviving spouse. So because they know that that person may have relied on you to for retirement, for savings, for things like that. And even getting back to my original point, shared expenses. Um, sharing the cost of housing, sharing the cost of food, of buying in bulk, things like that can really save you a lot of money over the long run. And even the the averages, and I know a lot of this stuff is average. One person in New York may not be the same as one person in Wyoming, but the averages are still much higher. The average is almost 1.8 million based on the research that I did. But the median, like the middle of the road, is usually a little bit over $400,000. So just kind of keep that in mind. I know, like I said, sometimes our spouses are overwhelming, sometimes they're too much. Obviously, you shouldn't be around them if you have violence issues, you have something that they're cheating on you constantly, things like that. But if sometimes they're just overwhelming, take a break from that person. Just kind of walk away, or maybe don't talk to them for a day or two. But always get counseling. Always do what you can just to kind of stay in the game. And look, we all have our moments where sometimes they're overwhelming. Just walk away. It's a good piece of advice. Another piece of advice I'd like to talk to you about retirement is owning versus renting. And the facts, I've done my research, and roughly after 30 years of owning a house versus renting, you have roughly 3 times as much in equity than somebody who just rents their house and maybe puts it in the stock market. Now, to kind of make things simplistic for you here, your house is one of the biggest assets of your life that you will ever have. So because it's all your income. And rather than throwing it out the window every month, put it in a savings account, which is basically your house. And I believe me, I fully understand a lot of y'all are younger out there. A lot of y'all, don't know your left from right. You're still kind of figuring things out in life. But a house, there's some good stuff and some bad stuff. I'm not saying it's all good. Obviously, you need to have a bigger upfront cost and having a good down payment. With a apartment, you have a little more flexibility. There's a little bit lower upfront cost. A lot of them just say, you don't need to put down payment, things like that. You can move around. That's also helpful as well. Or if you're just going to stay someplace short term. But I would say if you have the money and you're looking for long termness, is definitely get a house. It offers more stability, and especially when you start raising kids and jobs that are not just a couple months and they're gone, and you have a job for a couple of years. And also what I'd recommend as well in owning versus renting, I'm not saying it's perfect in every way, shape, or form. I mean, some of y'all out there that may live in high-priced cities like Manhattan, San Francisco, etc., it actually is more beneficial to rent as opposed to own. What I would do in a scenario like that is you can go online. There's a million calculators out there. I know Zillow has a good one, and you can actually do the averages of renting versus owning and see which one is more beneficial. Cities like that, sometimes you can find a small place, and if you're single, that may be cheaper. But sometimes we have partners that kind of say, "Hey, I want to get a house. I want to get a house." If you can, definitely get a place that is not within the city, because those places are a little bit cheaper, or get a place that may be a little bit of a drive, that albeit it's a little bit inconvenient, but if you can see in the next 5 or 10 years, okay, this city is going to grow. It's going to go places. Get a place a little bit out of the city. That'll help you out. And believe me, for both these points of what I'm talking about, I know this is kind of I'm getting old scenario, but you're not. I mean, this is a smart move. When I was in my 20s, I didn't want to get married. I didn't want to own a home. I wanted to stay free. I wanted to move around, and I get it. We've all been there, but like I was saying, we all get old. We all need Social Security. We all need some kind of retirement savings. We all need a place to go, and these two factors will help you in doing that. But and I've seen it all throughout the cycle. I've seen young people come to me, and I've seen old people come to me, and I can tell you that when you start young, you're a lot better off. But just a little bit about me, myself and my partner, we have a bookkeeping business right there, www.metroacc.com, Metro Bookkeeping Solutions. We have over 15 years of experience, so we're fairly well versed in all the good stuff and bad stuff regarding money, and hopefully this little tip helps you out, and hopefully I can convert you to owning a home and getting married and staying long-term, obviously. But if you like us, you love us, you want more of us, check us out, and of course, like and subscribe. Until next time.